On the morning of our cruise, I was standing by the door with my suitcase packed, sunscreen in my bag, excitement in my chest. Then my phone rang. It was my son. His voice was tight. "Mom, plans changed. You can't come. My wife doesn't want outsiders." I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't even ask why. I sat down, read the message again, and felt something shift inside me. By noon, I had closed the accounts, signed the papers, sold the property, and left town without telling anyone. When they came back from the cruise and tried to unlock the house, they learned what that call had cost them. Hello and welcome. Before we continue, I would like to know where you are listening from. Kindly leave a comment. It warms my heart to know how far and wide these stories resonate. Let's proceed. I was standing in my bedroom, folding a linen dress into my suitcase. The soft blue one with the white buttons. I'd bought it specifically for the cruise, something light for the Caribbean sun, something that wouldn't wrinkle in the cabin closet. My reading glasses sat on top of a stack of paperback novels on the nightstand. The morning light came through the curtains at that particular angle it only does at 7:43 a.m., catching the dust motes above my half-packed luggage. My phone buzzed on the bed. Bradley's name lit up the screen. I smiled. He was probably calling to confirm the pickup time, or maybe to tell me Julie had finally decided on the restaurant for our first night aboard. I picked up on the second ring. "Morning, sweetheart." "Mom." His voice was flat. Professional, almost. The way he sounded when he talked to his secretary. "We need to talk about today." I sat down on the edge of the bed, my hand still holding a pair of rolled socks. "Julie and I have been discussing it, and we've decided the cruise would be better as just the two of us. You know, quality time. She's been stressed with work, and..." "I'm sorry, what?" "The cruise, Mom. We think it's best if you don't come. Julie feels like she needs this time with just me. She doesn't want outsiders." The socks fell from my hand onto the carpet. Outsiders. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My mouth had opened slightly, but nothing came out. On the other end, Bradley filled the silence with words that sounded rehearsed. "We'll do a family trip another time. Maybe next year. This is just bad timing, and Julie's been really clear about needing space to reconnect as a couple, and I think we should respect that. You understand, right?" I looked at the suitcase. At the blue dress. At the stack of books I'd chosen so carefully, 2 thrillers, 1 memoir, a novel everyone at church had been talking about. "Mom? I'm here. So you're okay with this?" I heard it then. The edge of impatience in his voice. He wanted me to say yes quickly. To make it easy. "When did you decide this?" My voice came out calmer than I expected. "Last night. Julie was up late thinking, and she expressed how she really felt, and I had to listen to my wife, Mom. You get that? Last night. The cruise left in 4 hours. I already paid for the cabin, Bradley." "Yeah, I know. We'll figure that out later. Julie says maybe we can apply it as a credit or something. But right now, we really need to get to the port, so. The cabin I paid for." A pause. "We can talk about money stuff later." "This isn't about money." "What is it about?" "I just told you. Julie needs." She called me an outsider. She didn't mean it like that. She just meant, not part of the couple. Not part of our marriage unit. It's nothing personal. Nothing personal. I was 63 years old. I had raised this boy by myself after his father died when Bradley was 7. I had worked double shifts at the hospital for 15 years so he could go to college without loans. I had been there for every fever, every heartbreak, every milestone. And now I was an outsider. "Mom? Are you listening?" I'm listening. So we're good? I looked at my reflection in the mirror above the dresser. A woman with gray blonde hair pulled back in a clip. Reading glasses on a chain around her neck. 63 years of laugh lines and worry lines and the kind of face that always said yes. We're good, I heard myself say. Great. Okay. Thanks for understanding. We'll call you from the ship, okay? Love you. The line went dead before I could respond. I sat there holding the phone. The clock on the nightstand read 7:51 a.m. I didn't cry. That surprised me. I stood up and walked to the kitchen, set the phone down on the counter, and filled a glass with water from the tap. My hands weren't shaking. My breathing was steady. I drank the water slowly, looking out the window at Mrs. Patterson's rose bushes next door. Then I went back to the bedroom and unpacked the suitcase. Every item came out and went back to its place. The blue linen dress on its hanger. The books back on the shelf. The socks in the drawer. I moved through the motions with perfect calm, as if I were cleaning up after a party that never happened. When the suitcase was empty, I zipped it closed and slid it back into the closet. Then I sat down at my kitchen table with my laptop and opened my email. I read Bradley's message from 6 weeks ago. Mom. Great news. Julie and I want to treat you to a Caribbean cruise for your birthday. It'll be the three of us, a real family vacation. Julie's really excited about it. She was just saying the other day how she never gets to spend quality time with you. Let's make it happen. I read it twice. Then again. Not because I didn't understand, but because I never imagined hearing what I had just heard from the same person who'd written those words. I closed the laptop. The house was quiet in a way it rarely was. Usually there was the TV, or the radio, or I was on the phone with someone from church. But right then, at 8:17 on a Tuesday morning in March, my house was completely silent. I could hear the refrigerator humming. The click of the thermostat. My own breathing. I thought about calling Bradley back. I thought about texting Julie. I thought about driving to their house, just 20 minutes away in the subdivision I'd helped them buy into, and asking to talk face to face. Instead, I made tea. While the water boiled, I stood at the counter and tried to remember when things had changed. It hadn't been sudden. Nothing ever is. Looking back, I could trace it like a timeline, though I hadn't wanted to see it at the time. First, it was the holidays. 3 years ago, Christmas morning. Julie had started a new tradition, just the two of them opening stockings before anyone else arrived. I'd shown up at 9 a.m. as we'd always done, and Bradley had met me at the door with an apologetic smile. Hey Mom, can you come back at 11? We're doing our couple's morning. I'd said of course. I'd gone to Denny's and had coffee until it was time. Then it was Easter. Julie wanted to host at their place instead of mine, which was fine, except when I offered to bring my honey-glazed ham, the one Bradley had loved since he was 8 years old. Julie said they were doing a new menu. Mediterranean. Lamb. Very sophisticated. I brought a salad. No one ate it. Then it was the monthly dinners. We'd had them for years, Bradley and me. First Friday of every month, we'd go to Giuseppe's and split the lasagna and catch up. But after he got married, it became first Friday every other month. Then every 3 months. Then Julie started coming along. Which was fine. Of course it was fine. Except she'd redirect every conversation. If Bradley started telling a story from his childhood, she'd interrupt with something about her family. If I mentioned a memory, she'd check her phone. If I suggested dessert, she'd look at Bradley and say, "We really shouldn't, babe." I'd stopped going 6 months ago. Bradley hadn't noticed. Then there was the money. I'd co-signed on their house. My retirement savings had gone toward the down payment, $60,000, because they couldn't qualify for the full mortgage otherwise. Bradley had promised to pay me back within 5 years. That was 4 years ago. I'd never asked about it. Not once. When their car broke down, I'd paid for the repairs. $2,000. When Julie's sister needed help with her wedding, I'd contributed $3,000. When they wanted to renovate the kitchen, I'd loaned them $15,000. Bradley said it would increase the home value, and since I was on the deed, it was an investment for me too. I'd believed him. And through it all, I'd stayed. I'd helped. I'd paid. Because he was my son. Because that's what mothers do. But this morning, standing in my kitchen with a cup of tea growing cold in my hands, something shifted. I wasn't angry. Anger is hot and loud and demands to be heard. This was different. It was quiet. It was clear. It was the feeling you get when you finally understand something you've been trying not to understand for a very long time. I set the tea down. I picked up my phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found a name I hadn't called in years, Robert Garrison. He'd been my late husband's attorney, and then mine after David passed. He'd handled the estate, the will, the life insurance. He was 70 now, probably semi-retired, but his office number was still in my phone. It rang 4 times. Garrison Legal. Hello, this is Bella Henshaw. I need to speak with Robert if he's available. One moment, please. Classical music played. Vivaldi. David had loved Vivaldi. Bella? My God, it's been what, 10 years? How are you? I'm well, Robert. I need your help with something. Of course. What's going on? I looked out my kitchen window. Mrs. Patterson was deadheading her roses, her straw hat bobbing as she worked. I need to know what my options are, I said. Legally. For property I co-own with my son. There was a brief pause. Are you looking to sell? Transfer the deed? I'm looking to protect myself. Another pause, longer this time. Robert had always been good at reading between the lines. Can you come to my office this afternoon? Say, 2 o'clock? I'll be there. Bella? Whatever's happened, we'll figure it out. Thank you, Robert. I hung up and stood there for a moment, phone in hand, looking at nothing in particular. Then I opened my banking app. The joint account I shared with Bradley showed a balance of $127,438. It had been set up years ago, when David died and I needed help managing things. Bradley was 25 then, fresh out of college, eager to help his grieving mother with the business side of life, as he'd called it. Over time, it had become the account where I deposited my pension, my Social Security, my part-time nursing income. Bradley had access for emergencies, he'd said. In case something happened to me and he needed to pay my bills. In 17 years, there had been exactly 0 emergencies. But there had been plenty of transfers. I scrolled through the transaction history. March 3rd, transfer to Bradley Henshaw, $500. Memo, help with utilities. February 18th, transfer to Bradley Henshaw, $1,200. Memo, car insurance. January 29th, transfer to Bradley Henshaw, $800. Memo, Julie's birthday. December 15th, transfer to Bradley Henshaw, $2,000. Memo, holiday expenses. I scrolled back further. Months. Years. The transfers went back almost to the beginning. Small at first. 100 here, 200 there. Then larger. More frequent. I added them up in my head, roughly. Over the past 3 years alone, it was somewhere north of $40,000. I set the phone down and pressed my palms flat against the kitchen table. My chest felt tight, but not with panic. With something else. Recognition. I picked up the phone again and called the bank. First National, this is Trevor, how can I help you? Hello, I need to remove someone from my joint account. I can help with that. Can I have your account number? I read it off. And your name? Bella Henshaw. Thank you, Mrs. Henshaw. And who are we removing today? My son. Bradley Henshaw. Okay, I'll need to verify some information first. It took 20 minutes. Security questions, verbal confirmation, a promise that I'd come into the branch to sign paperwork by end of week. When it was done, Trevor said, all set. Bradley Henshaw will no longer have access to account ending in 4739 as of end of business today. Is there anything else I can help you with? Yes, I said. I need to open a new savings account. Under only my name. And I'd like to transfer funds from my checking. Absolutely. How much would you like to transfer? I looked at the balance again. $100,000. There was a tiny pause. That's a large sum. For security purposes, would you like to discuss investment options, or just a savings account, please? Understood. Let me set that up for you. When I hung up, I sat back in my chair. The clock read 9:42 a.m. The cruise ship was leaving in 2 hours and 18 minutes. I wondered if Bradley had even thought about me since our call. If Julie was excited to have the cabin to herself, to themselves. If they were packing their luggage into the car right now, laughing about something, eager to get to the port. I wondered if they'd think about me at all once they were on the water. I made another cup of tea. This time, I drank it. At 1:45 p.m., I drove to Robert Garrison's office. It was in a small brick building downtown, the kind of place that looked like it hadn't changed since 1987. Wood paneling. Brass nameplates. A secretary with reading glasses on a beaded chain, just like mine. Mrs. Henshaw? Mr. Garrison is ready for you. Robert stood when I entered. He'd aged since I'd last seen him, more gray, more lines, but his eyes were the same. Sharp. Kind. Bella. Come in, sit down. I sat in the leather chair across from his desk. Tell me what's going on, he said. So I did. I told him about the house. The down payment. The co-signing. The deed that had both our names on it. I told him about the money. The loans. The transfers. I told him about the cruise. I didn't tell him how I felt. I didn't explain the hurt or the betrayal or the decades of single motherhood that made this morning's phone call so much worse than it should have been. I just told him the facts. When I finished, Robert leaned back in his chair and folded his hands. Legally speaking, he said, you have several options. Tell me. The house. You're listed as a co-owner on the deed, correct? Correct. Do you have documentation of the funds you provided for the down payment? Bank statements, yes. From the original transfer. Good. That establishes your financial stake. Now, because you're on the deed, you have the legal right to force a sale of the property or to buy out Bradley's share. Given that you provided the down payment and they've made no effort to repay you, you'd have a strong case for claiming a larger percentage of equity. I nodded slowly. There's also the matter of the ongoing financial transfers. If you can document a pattern of loans or gifts without repayment, that could factor into any settlement negotiations. I can document them. Then my recommendation is this: we send Bradley a formal letter requesting repayment of the documented loans within 30 days. We also request that he either buy out your share of the house or agree to sell it. If he doesn't respond or refuses, we file a partition action to force the sale. How long would that take? 3 to 6 months, typically. I thought about that. 6 months of legal battles. 6 months of phone calls and arguments and family members taking sides. What if I wanted something faster? I asked. Robert raised an eyebrow. How much faster? Immediate. He studied me for a long moment. You could sell your share to a third party. There are investors who buy into property disputes. It's not common, but it happens. Or. He paused. You could leverage your position. If you're on the deed and they can't buy you out, you have the right to change the locks, post notices, even restrict access to the property until the matter is settled. Would that be legal? If done properly, with proper notice, yes. But Bella, I should warn you, that would escalate things considerably. Bradley would likely fight back. It could damage your relationship permanently. I looked down at my hands. The same hands that had changed his diapers, packed his lunches, held him when he cried after his father's funeral. Robert, I said quietly. I don't think there's a relationship left to damage. He nodded slowly, understanding passing between us without words. Then let's talk about your options. We talked for another hour. When I left his office, I had a folder full of documents, a list of action items, and a follow-up appointment scheduled for Friday. I also had something else. A plan. That evening, I made myself dinner. Grilled chicken. Steamed broccoli. A small salad with vinaigrette. I set the table properly, the way David and I used to when Bradley was young, placemat, napkin, water glass. I ate slowly, chewing each bite, tasting nothing. The cruise ship had left port at 4 p.m. I wondered if they'd checked into the cabin yet. If Julie had commented on the size, the view. If Bradley had ordered champagne from room service with the credit card linked to my account. I washed my plate, dried it, put it away. Then I sat down with my laptop and began making lists. The first list was properties. The house I lived in, paid off, solely in my name. Worth approximately $340,000 according to the last assessment. The rental property on Maple Street, a small duplex I'd inherited from my mother. Tenants paid $1,800 monthly. Also solely mine. And the house Bradley lived in with Julie. 2847 Ridgewood Drive. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, granite countertops, the renovated kitchen I'd paid for. Market value around $485,000. Mortgage balance probably around $320,000. My name on the deed. I opened a new document and began typing. Every financial transaction I could remember. Every loan, every emergency, every favor that had turned into a gift because asking for repayment seemed petty. The numbers added up quickly. Down payment, $60,000 kitchen renovation, $15,000 car repairs, $2,000 Julie's sister's wedding, $3,000 various transfers over 3 years, approximately $43,000. Total, $123,000. Not including interest. Not including opportunity cost. Not including the emotional debt that couldn't be calculated in spreadsheets. I saved the document. Backed it up to the cloud. Emailed a copy to Robert. Then I opened my photo albums. There were thousands of pictures. Birthday parties. School plays. Little League games. Bradley in his high school cap and gown. Bradley at college graduation. Bradley at his wedding, Julie in white lace, both of them smiling. Me in every photo, somewhere. In the background. To the side. Holding the cake, setting up chairs, fixing his tie. Always there. I scrolled through 3 years of recent photos. Looking for myself. Christmas 2 years ago, I was in 4 pictures out of 47. Thanksgiving last year, 2 pictures out of 32. Bradley's birthday party in July, 1 picture. Blurry. My back turned. I closed the laptop. The next morning, Wednesday, I went to the bank. The branch manager, a pleasant woman named Stacy, met me in her office. Mrs. Henshaw, Trevor mentioned you were coming in. Let's get that paperwork finalized. I signed the documents removing Bradley from my accounts. My hand was steady. Is there anything else we can help you with today? Stacy asked. Yes. I'd like to have statements printed for the past 5 years. All transactions. Highlighted transfers to Bradley Henshaw. That's quite a lot of paper. I'll pay for it. She printed them. It took 40 minutes and filled a folder 3 inches thick. I took the folder home and spent the afternoon with a calculator and colored tabs. Yellow for transfers under $500. Orange for $500 to $1,000. Red for anything over $1,000. By 5 p.m., the pages looked like a sunset. Almost entirely red and orange. Thursday morning, I called my financial advisor. His name was Martin Chen, and he'd been handling my retirement accounts since David died. Bella. Good to hear from you. What can I do for you? Martin, I need to liquidate some assets. A pause. Liquidate? May I ask why? I'm restructuring my estate. I see. Which assets are we talking about? The mutual funds. The bonds. I want to move everything into cash accounts under only my name. Bella, that's going to trigger tax implications. Capital gains, early withdrawal penalties on some of those funds. Have you thought about? I've thought about it. Another pause. Longer this time. Okay. If you're certain, I can start the process. It'll take about a week to complete all the transactions. That's fine. And the beneficiaries on these accounts, do you want to update those as well? I hadn't thought about that. Bradley was listed as the sole beneficiary on everything. My retirement accounts. My life insurance. Everything. Yes, I said. Change them. To whom? I thought for a moment. Divide them equally between St. Catherine's Hospital Foundation and the Regional Literacy Council. Got it. I'll send you the forms. When I hung up, I made tea and stood at the kitchen window. Mrs. Patterson was in her garden again, planting something. Bulbs, maybe. Planning for spring. I wondered what it felt like to plan for the future with such certainty. Friday afternoon, I met with Robert again. He had more documents. Thicker folders. I've drawn up a formal demand letter, he said, sliding it across the desk. It requests full repayment of documented loans within 30 days and proposes 3 options. Bradley buys out your share of the house, you buy out his, or the property goes to market. I read it slowly. The language was cold, legal, nothing like the conversations I'd imagined having with my son. No mentions of betrayal or hurt or 36 years of motherhood. Just dollar amounts and property law. If he doesn't respond? I asked. We file a partition action. The court forces the sale. And if he tries to contest the amounts? Then we present your documentation. The bank statements, the transfer records. It's all there in black and white. I signed the authorization for Robert to send the letter. There's one more thing, Robert said. The property on Ridgewood Drive, you're listed as a co-owner, which means you technically have the right to access the property. To inspect it, to ensure your investment is being maintained properly. I don't understand. You have keys to the house, I assume? I do. Then legally, you have every right to enter the property. You could change the locks if you wanted to. Post notice that you're exercising your ownership rights. As long as you follow proper notification procedures, it's entirely within your legal rights. I stared at him. They're on a cruise, Robert. They won't be home for another 9 days. He held my gaze. I'm simply informing you of your legal rights as a co-owner. What you do with that information is entirely up to you. I didn't decide right away. I drove home, made dinner, watched the evening news. A story about a woman who'd won the lottery. A story about a dog who'd saved a child from a frozen pond. A story about a local politician caught in a lie. The world kept turning. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the blue linen dress still hanging in my closet. Thinking about Bradley's voice on the phone, "Julie doesn't want outsiders." Thinking about the word outsiders and how it had burrowed into my chest and made a home there. At 2:30 a.m., I got up and went to my desk. I pulled out the folder of bank statements. The red and orange tabs glowing in the lamplight. I thought about 17 years of joint account access. 17 years of trust. I thought about $123,000. I thought about the blue linen dress. At 3:15 a.m., I made a decision. Saturday morning, I went to Home Depot. The young man at the key counter wore a name tag that said Josh. "How can I help you, ma'am?" "I need to change the locks on a house." "Sure thing. Do you know what kind you need?" "The best ones you have." "Deadbolts. The kind that can't be picked easily." He showed me several options. I chose brushed nickel. High security. Expensive. "You need 3 sets?" 4. Front door, back door, garage door, side entrance. "You doing this yourself?" "Yes." He looked doubtful. "These can be tricky to install if you haven't done it before. We have a contractor list if you." "I was a nurse for 30 years, I said. "I can follow instructions." He grinned. "Fair enough. You'll need a drill, a chisel, a tape measure." I bought everything. The total came to $427. I paid in cash. Sunday morning, I drove to 2847 Ridgewood Drive. The neighborhood was quiet. Most people at church were still sleeping. Bradley and Julie's house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, the lawn professionally maintained, the shutters freshly painted. I'd helped pay for those shutters. I parked in the driveway and sat for a moment, keys in my lap. This was it. The point of no return. I could drive away. Forget the locks in my trunk. Send the demand letter and handle everything through lawyers and courts and proper channels. I could be the bigger person. I looked at the house. At the windows I'd washed. The garden beds I'd helped plant. The mailbox I'd replaced after a storm knocked it down. I got out of the car. The front door opened with my key. The alarm beeped. I entered the code, Bradley's birthday, and the beeping stopped. The house smelled like Julie's candles. Expensive ones. Vanilla and something else. Sandalwood, maybe. I walked through slowly. The living room, leather furniture, large TV, the painting I'd bought them as a housewarming gift hanging above the couch. The kitchen, granite counters I'd paid for, stainless appliances, a coffee maker that cost more than my monthly electric bill. The dining room, table set with fresh flowers in a vase. No dust. No clutter. Everything perfect. I climbed the stairs. The master bedroom was at the end of the hall. I stood in the doorway. Their bed was made. The kind of made that meant they'd probably done it right before leaving, rushing to get to the port on time. On Julie's nightstand, a framed photo of her and Bradley in Italy. Just the two of them. On Bradley's nightstand, nothing. No photo of us. No photo of him as a child. No photo of his father. I opened the closet. Julie's side was color-coordinated. Dresses, blouses, pants, all arranged by shade. Bradley's side was Messier. Wrinkled shirts. Jeans on the floor. I closed the closet and went to the guest room. It was barely furnished. A bed, a dresser, empty walls. The kind of room that said, "No one important stays here." I'd stayed here twice. Once when I had the flu and Bradley insisted I not drive home. Once after a church event ran late. Both times, I'd felt like an imposition. I went back downstairs and began working. The front door first. I removed the old lock with the tools from Home Depot, following the instructions Josh had included. It took me 40 minutes. My hands cramped. My knees hurt from kneeling. But I got it done. The new lock clicked into place. Solid. Secure. I tested it 3 times. Then I moved to the back door. By the time I finished all 4 doors, it was 3 p.m. My back ached. My fingers were sore. But every lock was changed. Every single one. I sat at their kitchen table and wrote a note on a piece of their own stationery. Bradley. I've exercised my legal rights as co-owner of this property. The locks have been changed for security purposes. You will receive formal correspondence from my attorney regarding the property and outstanding financial matters. Please do not attempt to contact me directly. All communication should go through Robert Garrison, Garrison Legal. Bella. I didn't write Mom. I left the note on the kitchen counter, weighted down with their fruit bowl. Then I gathered my tools, locked the front door behind me with the new key, and drove home. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. Monday morning, I received an email from Martin. Bella, all transactions have been processed. Your assets are now in liquid accounts under your sole name. Beneficiaries updated as requested. Let me know if you need anything else. I replied with a simple thank you. Then I called Robert. The demand letter was sent via certified mail on Friday, he said. Bradley should receive it tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest. He'll be on the cruise until Saturday. Then he'll likely receive it when he returns. That's fine. The 30-day clock doesn't start until he signs for it. Robert, I said. I changed the locks. A long pause. At Ridgewood Drive? Yes. Did you leave notice? A written note explaining that I'd exercised my ownership rights. I mentioned you specifically and asked that all communication go through your office. Another pause. That's actually smart. You established that you weren't acting emotionally or impulsively. You followed proper procedure. Will there be a problem? Not legally, no. But Bella, when Bradley finds out. I know. He's going to be very angry. I know. Family members might get involved. Julie's family. Friends. People will take sides. I know. Robert sighed. All right. Then we prepare for that. I'll make sure we have all documentation ready. If he tries to claim harassment or illegal lockout, we'll show that you followed proper notification and you have every legal right as co-owner. Thank you. Bella? How are you doing? Really? I looked out my kitchen window. Mrs. Patterson's roses were blooming early this year. I'm at peace, I said. And I was. Tuesday, I went to church. Pastor Michelle found me after the service. Bella, we missed you at Bible study last week. Everything okay? Everything's fine. Just had some personal matters to handle. Well, you let us know if you need anything. That's what family is for. I smiled. Thank you, Michelle. Family. That word again. Wednesday evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 3 minutes later, another call. Unknown number. Then a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Julie. We need to talk now. Call me. I blocked the number. Another text came through, this time from Bradley's phone. Mom, what the hell? We can't get into our house. The locks are changed. What did you do? I didn't respond. Another text. This is illegal. You can't just lock us out of our own house. I'm calling the police. I forwarded the text to Robert. He called me 2 minutes later. Don't respond to anything. Not texts, not calls, nothing. Let them contact me. I've already prepared a response. They're threatening to call the police. Let them. You've done nothing illegal. You're a co-owner who secured your property. The police will tell them it's a civil matter. Okay. Bella, this is going to get messy before it gets better. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the blue linen dress. About the word outsider. About 17 years of trust and $123,000 and a cruise I'd paid for but couldn't attend. I'm prepared, I said. Thursday morning, Robert called. Bradley contacted my office. He's upset. I imagine so. He's demanding immediate access to the house. He says they have nowhere to stay, that Julie is having panic attacks, that you're destroying their lives. What did you tell him? I told him that you're exercising your legal rights as co-owner and that if he wants to discuss the matter, he needs to address the outstanding financial issues first. I offered him the 3 options: buy you out, sell his share to you, or put the house on the market. And? He hung up on me. I almost smiled. Almost. He'll call back, Robert said. They always do. Underscore 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 underscore. Friday afternoon, I was in my garden when I saw a car pull up. Not Bradley's car. A silver sedan I didn't recognize. Julie got out. She was wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her hair pulled back. No makeup. She looked tired. She marched up my driveway. I stood up, brushing dirt from my knees. Bella. Her voice was tight. We need to talk. All communication goes through my attorney. I don't care about your attorney. This is insane. You locked us out of our house. My house. Excuse me? My house, I repeated calmly. My name is on the deed. My money paid the down payment. Legally, it's as much mine as it is Bradley's. You can't do this. I already have. Julie's face flushed. Do you have any idea what you've done? We have nowhere to live. Our stuff is in there. Our clothes, You should have thought about that before you decided I was an outsider. She froze. That's what this is about. The cruise? Are you seriously this petty? I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman my son had married. This woman who had slowly, methodically, cut me out of my son's life. This isn't about the cruise, I said quietly. This is about 17 years. This is about $123,000 in loans that were never repaid. This is about being erased from my own son's life, one holiday at a time, one dinner at a time, until I'm nothing but an ATM you can call when you need money. That's not, we always intended to pay you back. When? She didn't answer. When were you going to pay me back, Julie? Give me a date. We're not having this conversation. I'm going to talk to Bradley, and we're going to figure this out, and you're going to regret. I already gave you my attorney's number. Use it. I turned back to my garden. You're a horrible person, Julie said. Her voice cracked. Bradley was right about you. I didn't turn around. Didn't respond. Just knelt back down and continued pulling weeds. I heard her car door slam. Heard the engine start. Heard her drive away. Mrs. Patterson was watching from her porch. She gave me a small wave. I waved back. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't know. This is Bradley's cousin Amanda. I don't know what's going on, but he's really hurt and says you've lost your mind. What happened to you? I deleted it without responding. Another text, different number. Mrs. Henshaw, this is Julie's sister. What you're doing is elder abuse in reverse. We're documenting everything. I blocked the number. My phone rang. Bradley's number. I let it ring. Voicemail notification. I deleted it without listening. Saturday morning, Robert called. Bradley's hired an attorney. That was fast. His attorney is arguing that you're acting irrationally, that you're using the house as leverage, that you're engaging in elder abuse against yourself. Elder abuse against myself? It's a reach, but they're trying. They're filing an emergency motion to grant Bradley access to the property. Can they do that? They can try. But we have documentation of everything, the loans, the transfers, the co-ownership. The judge isn't going to give him access without addressing the financial issues first. When's the hearing? Next Friday. Can you be there? I'll be there. When I hung up, I made breakfast. Eggs. Toast. Orange juice. I ate at my table, in my house, in complete silence. And I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little bit. The days before the hearing passed slowly. I kept my routine. Grocery shopping on Monday. Garden work on Tuesday. Lunch with the ladies from church on Wednesday, though I noticed Patricia and Susan were quieter than usual. Word had spread. Small towns are like that. Thursday evening, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Bradley. Alone. He looked terrible. Unshaven. Dark circles under his eyes. The same eyes that used to look up at me from his bed when he was 7, asking me to read just one more chapter. I opened the door but kept the screen latched. Mom. His voice cracked. Please. Can we just talk? You should be speaking to my attorney. I don't want to talk to attorneys. I want to talk to my mother. I said nothing. We're staying in a hotel, he said. Do you know what that's costing us? Julie's having anxiety attacks. She can't sleep. Her family thinks we should press charges against you. For what? Protecting my investment? It's our home, Mom. Our home. That I paid for. We were going to pay you back. When? The same question I'd asked Julie. Give me a date, Bradley. A specific date when you plan to pay back the $123,000. He flinched at the number. It wasn't like that. It was family helping family. You never said you wanted. I want a lot of things. My voice stayed level. Quiet. I wanted to go on the cruise I paid for. I wanted to be treated like a mother instead of an outsider. I wanted my son to defend me when his wife decided I wasn't good enough to vacation with them. Bradley's face went red. She didn't mean it that way. Then how did she mean it? She needed space. Time with me. Is that so wrong? Space from what? I saw you maybe once a month, Bradley. I wasn't suffocating you. I was barely present in your life at all. That's not true. Isn't it? When was the last time you called me just to talk? When was the last time you asked how I was doing? He opened his mouth. Closed it. I thought so, I said. Mom, please. He pressed his hand against the screen door. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry about the cruise. I'm sorry I didn't handle it better. But this, locking us out, taking your name off everything, trying to take our house, this is cruel. No, I said softly. Cruel is calling your mother an outsider on the morning of a trip she paid thousands of dollars for. Cruel is taking money for 17 years and never once asking if I needed anything in return. Cruel is watching your wife slowly erase me from your life and doing nothing to stop it. I never wanted. What you wanted doesn't matter anymore, Bradley. What matters is what you did. His hand dropped from the screen. So that's it? You're just done with me? I looked at him. My son. My baby. The boy I'd raised alone after David died. The boy I'd sacrificed everything for. I'm not done with you, I said. But I'm done being used. I never used you. Then pay me back. Buy out my share of the house. Prove that I wasn't just a bank account to you. I can't. We don't have that kind of money right now. The market's bad, and we just renovated, and then sell the house. That's our home. No. It's my investment. And I want it back. Bradley stared at me. Really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. You've changed, he said. No. I finally stopped pretending. He turned and walked back to his car. Didn't look back. I closed the door and leaned against it. My hands were shaking. Friday morning, I dressed carefully for court. Navy slacks. White blouse. The pearl necklace David gave me for our 20th anniversary. I pulled my hair back in a neat bun and put on minimal makeup. I looked like someone who had their affairs in order. I looked like someone who couldn't be dismissed. Robert met me in the courthouse lobby. Are you ready? I'm ready. We entered the courtroom. Bradley and Julie were already seated with their attorney, a young man in an expensive suit who looked fresh out of law school. Julie's eyes locked onto mine. Pure hatred. Bradley wouldn't look at me at all. The judge was a woman in her 60s. Judge Patricia Morrison. I'd read about her online, fair, no nonsense, didn't tolerate emotional manipulation. This is a motion for emergency access to property, she began. Mr. Henshaw, your attorney may proceed. Bradley's attorney stood. Your Honor, my clients are being illegally denied access to their home by Mrs. Henshaw, who has changed the locks without proper notice and is essentially holding the property hostage. Mrs. Henshaw is listed as co-owner, correct? Judge Morrison asked. Well, yes, but... And has she violated any laws in securing property she partially owns? The manner in which she's done it is. Has she violated any laws, Counselor? A pause. Not technically, but... Then this doesn't sound like an emergency. She looked at Robert. Mr. Garrison? Robert stood. Your Honor, Mrs. Henshaw exercised her legal right as a 50% owner of the property to secure it. She provided written notice to the other owner and has offered 3 reasonable solutions. Mr. Henshaw may buy out her share, she may buy out his, or they may sell the property and divide the proceeds. And why did Mrs. Henshaw feel the need to secure the property? Because, Your Honor, she has provided over $123,000 in loans and down payment funds to her son over the past several years, none of which has been repaid. She has documentation of every transaction. Judge Morrison's eyebrows rose. Mr. Henshaw, is this true? Bradley's attorney whispered to him. Bradley nodded. Let me see the documentation, the judge said. Robert passed forward the folder. The one with all the red and orange tabs. Judge Morrison spent 5 minutes reviewing it. The courtroom was silent except for the rustling of pages. Finally, she looked up. Mr. Henshaw, this is quite a substantial amount of money. What were the terms of repayment? Bradley's attorney stood. Your Honor, these were gifts within a family context. I'm asking Mr. Henshaw. Sir, did you agree to pay this money back? Bradley stood slowly. We talked about it. We said we would when we could. When you could. And when would that be? I don't, we hadn't set a specific date. I see. And the down payment on your home, was that also a gift? My mom offered to help. She wanted to. I'm sure she did. But was there an agreement that you would repay her? Bradley looked at his attorney. At Julie. At the floor. I don't know. Maybe. It wasn't clear. It seems quite clear to me, Judge Morrison said. Mrs. Henshaw provided substantial financial support over many years with a reasonable expectation of repayment. That makes these loans, not gifts. She closed the folder. Mr. Henshaw, here's my ruling. Mrs. Henshaw has every right to secure property she co-owns, especially given the financial circumstances. Your motion for emergency access is denied. Julie made a small sound. Almost a gasp. However, the judge continued, this situation cannot continue indefinitely. You have 60 days to either buy out Mrs. Henshaw's share, arrange for her to buy out yours, or list the property for sale. If you cannot reach an agreement, the court will order a partition sale. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Bradley's attorney said quietly. Mrs. Henshaw, do you understand? I stood. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. Outside the courthouse, Bradley caught up to me. Mom, wait. I stopped but didn't turn around. 60 days, he said. That's not enough time to. To what? Find the money you should have saved? To figure out how to pay back loans you've had years to address? We'll have to sell. You know we'll have to sell. Then sell. Mom. His voice broke. This is really it? You're really going to make us lose our house? I turned to face him. I didn't make you lose anything, Bradley. You lost it yourself. You lost it when you chose Julie's comfort over your mother's dignity. You lost it when you took and never once asked if I had enough left for myself. You lost it when you called me an outsider. I didn't call you. You stood by while she did. That's the same thing. I walked to my car. This time, he didn't follow. Underscore 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 underscore. That night, I couldn't eat. I made soup but left it on the stove, cooling. I tried to read but the words blurred. I kept seeing Bradley's face in court. The way he'd looked at me when the judge ruled in my favor. Not angry. Devastated. I'd done that. I'd devastated my own son. I sat in my dark living room and asked myself the question I'd been avoiding, had I gone too far? The money was real. The loans were documented. The law was on my side. But was I right? I thought about calling Robert. About stopping the process. About telling Bradley we could work something out. Then I remembered. The blue dress. The phone call. Julie doesn't want outsiders. I remembered 17 years of transfers. 17 years of helping. 17 years of believing that love meant giving everything, asking for nothing, accepting whatever scraps of attention my son had time to offer. I remembered the cruise ship leaving port while I sat in my empty house, unpacking a suitcase I should never have had to pack in the first place. No. I hadn't gone too far. I'd gone exactly far enough. Sunday morning, my phone buzzed. A text from Bradley. We're listing the house. The realtor says we can probably get $485,000. After the mortgage payoff and costs, we'll net around $145,000. You'll get your $123,000. The rest is ours. I hope you're happy. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed. I'm not happy. But I'm at peace. There's a difference. I hit send. The house sold in 3 weeks. A young couple with a baby. First-time buyers. They loved the kitchen. The one I'd paid for. I didn't go to the closing. Robert handled everything. The check arrived by courier on a Tuesday afternoon, $123,000, exactly what I was owed. I deposited it and felt nothing. Bradley and Julie moved to an apartment across town. Smaller. 1 bedroom. I heard this from Patricia at church, who heard it from someone who heard it from Julie's sister. I didn't ask for details. 6 weeks after the sale, I found a card in my mailbox. Plain white envelope. My name and handwriting I'd know anywhere. Inside, a card with a generic landscape. Mountains. A lake. Bradley's handwriting. Mom. I've been trying to write this for weeks. I'm angry. I won't lie about that. We lost our home. Julie barely speaks to me. Her family thinks I'm weak for not fighting harder. But I also know. I know you were right about some things. I took you for granted. I let Julie make decisions that hurt you. I treated your money like it would always be there, like you would always be there. I'm not ready to forgive you yet. Maybe I never will be. But I'm starting to understand why you did it. Bradley. No love. No your son. Just his name. I put the card in a drawer and didn't look at it again. 3 months later, I ran into them at the grocery store. I was in the produce section, choosing tomatoes, when I looked up and saw Julie 2 aisles over. She saw me at the same moment. She turned her cart around and left. Bradley appeared a moment later, rounding the corner with bread in his hand. He stopped when he saw me. We stood there, 10 feet apart, strangers in a familiar store. Mom, he said finally. Bradley. How are you? I'm well. You? Fine. Good. We're adjusting. Silence. The apartment's smaller, he said. But it's enough. We're learning to live with less. I nodded. Sometimes less is exactly what we need. He looked at me for a long moment, something unreadable in his eyes. I should go. Julie's waiting. Of course. He walked past me. Stopped. Turned back. For what it's worth. I do understand now. What you were trying to teach me. What's that? That love without respect is it's just taking. I felt something catch in my throat. Yes, I said quietly. It is. He nodded once and walked away. That night, I stood in my bedroom looking at the blue linen dress. Still hanging in my closet. Still unworn. I took it out, held it up to the light. Then I packed it carefully in a box with a note, for someone planning their own journey. I dropped it at the church donation center the next morning. A year passed. I sold the rental property on Maple Street. Used the money to travel. Greece. Ireland. Portugal. Places David and I had always talked about seeing. I went alone. It was better that way. Bradley and I spoke occasionally. Birthdays. Holidays. Brief, polite conversations that never went deeper than surface pleasantries. He never apologized fully. I never asked him to. Some wounds don't heal. They just become part of the landscape of who you are. 2 years after the cruise that never was, I received another card. This time, it was an invitation. Bradley and Julie were renewing their vows. Small ceremony. Close family only. At the bottom, in Bradley's handwriting. I'd like you to be there. If you're willing. I sat with the invitation for 3 days. On the 4th day, I RSVP'd, thank you for the invitation. I'll be there. The ceremony was simple. A garden venue. Maybe 30 people. Julie wore cream instead of white. Bradley wore a navy suit. I sat in the 3rd row. Not the front. Not the back. Somewhere in between. When Bradley said his vows, he mentioned growth. Learning. Becoming a better partner. A better man. He didn't look at me, but I felt the words anyway. At the reception, Julie approached me while I was getting punch. "Thank you for coming," she said stiffly. "Thank you for inviting me." A long pause. "I didn't want to," she said. "Invite you." But Bradley insisted. I looked at her. "I appreciate your honesty. I still think what you did was extreme." "I know. But Bradley says it taught him something about boundaries. About not taking people for granted." She looked away. "I'm trying to learn that too." I nodded slowly. "That's all any of us can do." She walked away without another word. But it was something. I left the reception early. Hugged Bradley goodbye. He held on a moment longer than necessary. "Thank you for coming, Mom. I wouldn't have missed it." "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For all of it. For taking so long to understand." "I know. Do you think we can start over? Not forget, but try again?" I looked at my son. Older now. Lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 2 years ago. Wiser, maybe. Or just more tired. "We can try," I said. "But on different terms." "I understand." And I think he did. I drove home as the sun was setting. The sky was orange and pink, the kind of evening that made you believe in second chances. Not redemption. Not forgetting. Just the possibility that two people could learn to love each other again, carefully, with boundaries and respect, and the understanding that some things, once broken, never quite fit back together the same way. And maybe that was okay. That night, I sat on my porch with tea and watched Mrs. Patterson tend her roses. She waved. I waved back. "Beautiful evening," she called. "It is," I agreed. And it was. I thought about the woman I'd been 2 years ago. Standing in her bedroom, folding a blue dress, believing that love meant accepting whatever scraps were offered. I thought about the phone call. The word outsider. The moment everything changed. I thought about Robert's office, the bank statements, the new locks clicking into place. I thought about the courtroom. The sold house. The silence that followed. And I thought about tonight. Bradley's hug. Julie's grudging acknowledgement. The invitation itself, proof that some bridges, even burned, could be slowly, carefully rebuilt. I didn't regret it. Not the locks. Not the lawsuit. Not the year of silence. Because somewhere in all that breaking, I'd found something I'd lost decades ago. Myself. My dignity. My voice. The tea grew cold in my hands, but I didn't move. Just sat there in the gathering dark, listening to the crickets, feeling the evening breeze. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A car drove past. Life continued. And I was part of it. Not on the edges. Not waiting for permission. Just here. Present. Whole. Later that night, before bed, I wrote in my journal. Love without respect isn't love. It's a debt that never gets repaid. But respect without love is just protocol. The hardest thing I've ever done was demand both. And the most important thing I've ever learned is that I deserved both all along. I closed the journal and turned off the light. Tomorrow, I'd call Bradley. We'd have coffee. We'd talk about safe things, weather, work, his plans for the holidays. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be what it was. But it would be honest. And honest, I'd learned, was the only foundation worth building on.